A very good evening to all of you present here. So thank you so much, Sir Padma Shri Dr. Eklavya Sharma, for your elaborate presentation. I think it just sets the tone for today's discussion on biodiversity beyond borders, corridor connectivity, and species survival. So I think when we kind of deliberate on this topic today, I do see certain themes and issues emerging from it, and I think with all of your expertise on it, we can have a discussion on the line of issues, challenges, and the possibilities that could lead to a talk about in terms of policies, maybe. So I think I would like to keep the discussion on those lines, and since I would just like to begin the discussion by saying that nature knows no boundaries, as you rightly stated. But at the same time, we also kind of understand that how we have only created boundaries, borders, right? And these are all political borders that we are also talking about, which has deeper impact on ecology, ecological connectivity, as well as ecological integrity. So I think with that, setting the tone for the discussion, I would like to bring in Dr. Om. First, I would like to start with you. Since, you are a wildlife biologist, environmentalist, right? But you also have a PhD program on climate change, right? So I would like you to sort of, come in and talk a little bit on the challenges, the particular challenges, the biodiversity hotspots that are facing. At the same time, what are the particular species that can be highlighted, maybe, right? Because we have this variety of species that we can highlight here, but certain species, I'm sure, would be highly more affected. So if you could just start the discussion on those lines.
Good afternoon, everybody. Feeling privileged to be here, sharing the panelists. Thank you, organizer, for having me here. So, listening to Eklavya here, I wanted to say something that is sort of already shared, and thank you for that, making my job very much easier. And one of the things, before I answer your question, I think I'd like to start with while teaching, I'm a teacher, and while teaching, oftentimes I actually stress that most of the time when we implement projects, when we have developmental activities, we actually focus on human boundaries. And when we break this ecosystem into different fragments, and that's a big problem. And then in future, some scholars say that if we want world war, we need nothing. We just need ecological boundaries. Sorry, human boundaries. These human boundaries will break the ecological boundaries, and then that will fragment, and this will become the big disaster in future. That's what many scholars say. So I think if we just look at ecosystems, we fail to understand what is the boundary of the ecosystem, because I think ecosystem has its own ability to function, ability to solve its own problem within its boundary. So if we apply projects, implement the activities at the ecosystem level, for example, if we apply some projects at the to solve problems of the river, we need to look at river basin level, not at specific areas in the river. If we look at the ecosystem, we need to look at the ecosystem boundaries. And then I was listening this morning, and it's a good, I was really happy because now there is a paradigm shift from, this, how do you call that, hedonic kind of thinking to conservation thinking. Hedonic means, I think in economic terms, that people tend to focus on harvesting, and for human use. I think there is a shift among the scholars, among the scientists. I think there is a only thing that remains is political issue that needs to be addressed. As I pointed out, I think we need to, as a researcher, as a scholar, we need to, somehow convince the policymakers and convince them that this is not enough. And this is one thing. Another thing is, this morning I also, and Sir also highlighted that landscape approach. We need a landscape approach, which means it's not only species. There are soil, there is water, there are plants, and there are institutions, and then there are humans. Human brings different knowledge, different skills, things like that. So we need to actually connect to different dots and then look at from the holistic point of view. I think this is really required, and we need to really look at from the holistic perspective what we can do at the ecosystem level, not really fragmenting that particular species into 1, 2, or 3, or particular habitat or something. So that's one thing. And then to answer directly your question, I think I answered your question like maybe it's not really enough to look at only at the species level. We need to look at how this species exists, how it is dependent on the foods and nutrition and things like that. So we need to actually understand quite clearly. Think about connectivity, how this species actually uses connectivity, what are the dependency of this species to other species. So I think we need to look at this network of different things. So and also use the knowledge of people to benefit them. I think we also need to think about how are people benefiting. So if they realize that there are resources, we are the protector. If they can realize that one, probably they would be the steward. We don't need police to actually go and protect these ecosystems. I think I'll stop there for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think on that note, I would like to, because since you've talked about not just species, beyond species, and you mentioned about land, soil. So I think Dr. Ravi, you've been working in forestry and specialized in fact, you have a PhD in forestry. So biodiversity conservation and management. So how would you tap into this issue? Maybe you can just respond to what Dr. Om must have just mentioned.
Hello, thank you. First of all, thanks to Balipara Foundation for inviting me as a panelist here. And as for the question like biodiversity and the whole ecosystem thing, so there are various components in it. So to think about the connectivity, to think about how different habitats can be connected and which species would be, of the focus point, because like birds, they can fly, they can go beyond borders easily. For those who are dwelling in the land, they need those corridors to go from one place to another, to continue, like Sir said, because of climate change, the rain shift will be there, so they will need to expand their their habitat and continue to evolve further and grow. But it's not just the species that will transfer from one place to another. It would be the whole ecosystem. Wherever they will go, they will adapt to those conditions and then change those conditions to their own kind of suitability. So that way, this habitat connectivity and the species survival issue, it can be seen in that particular way. So yeah, this would be my submission.
Okay, thank you. I think I would also like to open the floor and come back to our panelist, So I had like a similar line of questions to you, sir, as well. So because I was reading upon certain things where you have been actually relentlessly working on central India. So. Yeah. So again, you can just elaborate a little bit.
No, I will definitely. I would like to tell you a few things about Central Indian landscape, where I spent 35 years of my life. But let me just begin, because there is a very good presentation given by Dr. Sharma, and I am really impressed with your presentation, sir. And just let me tell you briefly about my organization, Bombay Natural History Society, which was established in 1883. When there were no boundaries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and BNHS scientists were dumped in this landscape, and they used to carry out these surveys, and still today when I go to the tin boxes, I find a lot of papers in Bhutan and then Peshawar, Karachi and those landscapes. So today these landscapes are divided into political boundaries, and we are discussing about Eastern Himalaya, Western Himalaya, so in different context. So if you ask the species what this landscape is and then how would you like to live in this particular landscape, I would just like to give you a couple of examples. When I go to Ladakh, I see black-necked crane, and black-necked crane carries, it's a state bird of Ladakh, but black-necked crane carries equal importance, religious importance in Bhutan. So black-necked crane only knows the entire landscape as one landscape, not Bhutan and India or Ladakh. Similarly, you take Jatayu of Ramayana. Dr. Sachin Ranade is sitting here, who is relentlessly working on conservation breeding of vultures in Assam, and he's running one center in Guwahati at Rani. And when we release Jatayu captively bred vultures in West Bengal, they went to Nepal, and they went to Bhutan. Again they came back, again they went to Bhutan and Nepal. So birds, they will occupy their historical ranges. The animals would take their historical ranges. We need to understand. One slide which was really impressive, Dr. Sharma, you shown us how alien species, invasive species are grabbing these landscapes, and that's a big threat in a big way in the entire landscape. And who has brought these species? I discussed this issue with Dr. C.R. Babu, and he said, oh, these species also, they run very fast in the landscape. And that's how most of the landscape is grabbed by these invasive species. And several bird species who disperse the seeds, and then you see these species, and then immediately they grab huge landscape, grasslands and then wetlands, etc. So all these species also, they migrate, and they play a very important role in the entire eco-restoration of the landscape, which we are discussing today about the eco-restoration. But species plays an important role, and I would just stop here by giving these examples. But I think we need to look at the ecological aspect of the landscape before discussing them very specific for the Eastern Himalaya or the Western Himalaya. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now that we've heard all the four panelists, so I would request if you have any questions that would be very interesting, you can address to any of the panelists, and then I can come back with a few more questions. So anyone?
I think so. I'm audible here. So Saurabh this side. Basically, I'm working in Nagaland with respect to wildlife conservation over there. One of the aspects which has come up now is again the border fencing between India and Myanmar. So the government has come up with the idea of fencing the entire stretch of the border. So again, we are also talking about the socio-ecological aspects. So considering the border fencing happening, the movement of terrestrial species, also the communities which are staying in the either side of Myanmar and India. So I mean they belong to the same, they are the same indigenous people. It is just the boundary line crossing across some of their even houses are between India and Myanmar. So I've been fortunate enough to be into such landscapes, and the movement of species over there has been relatively, like, it is quite frequent. Considering Hatamanti Wildlife Sanctuary in Myanmar, then coming on to the Fakim Wildlife Sanctuary and Entanki National Park, which happens to be also a tiger corridor, tigers crossing through India to Myanmar and Myanmar to India. So I mean, how can the contribution of the research into that landscape with respect to the study of the movement for the wildlife and the ecological spaces that are shared both by humans and wildlife, can we, like, in a way, how can we contribute in a way to ensure it's good?
So
Shall I respond?
Yeah, please,
Yeah.
please.
So, luckily we have got some institutions in India which work beyond the boundaries. And one of the institutions, means Bombay Naturalistic Society, is of course one which works cross-border, and we work with Nepal, Bhutan, and we have counterparts. And earlier BNHS used to represent all the countries, but now they have separate organizations working there, and we are closely working with them on the cross-border issues. Another organization is Wildlife Institute of India, where the forest officers from Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, they have been given special number for getting training and then delivering in the field. So for such kind of species conservation issues, and especially the for population estimation to taking conservation actions, I think there is very good understanding among these governments, and there are collaborative initiatives, collaborative projects. Yes, there may be tensions between the countries political on certain political issues, but as far as the ecological conservation is concerned, I see very good coordination among the NGOs and the governments, and especially the forest departments.
Yeah, I think that Dr. Shah.
I would like to add, this is the exchange between countries, not at the borders. So maybe in their respective countries. But what is important is for animals and for even people, as you asked, how they can easily move. So for that, I think what researchers can address very much, your question is for research, not the political. Researchers have to really find the critical zones or areas along the borders. I have worked in that landscape. I mentioned high life. High life is between Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland and Myanmar and Yunnan of China. In that corridor, what you are saying, entire feasibility report is available, everything is available, but in spite of that, now if the fencing is coming, we have to see which are the critical areas where this wildlife pass. Those areas we can guard heavily and we don't have fence. So we should allow some tracks like that. So that should be the research input to the policy very much. So similarly for the socio-ecological or social exchange, we should really identify certain border towns and through those, not everywhere, border towns, if we are able to monitor and do, that is possible. And again, sociologists have to, or anthropologists have to work together to really see what are the exchanges that can happen, what are the situation on the ground. So these are the research inputs, in my opinion, directly we can think of. One for the fauna, wildlife, the other for people. So two researches can be done concretely and contribute.
I'd just like to add one aspect, and which was the policy aspect you spoke about. In fact, there is a very good learning among these three countries, India, Bhutan and Nepal. And I must tell you this, there is no elder brother and younger brother, or small or big. I think there are many things which India has learned from Bhutan, like the gross national happiness index and all. And how can we achieve that? And Nepal, the community forestry aspect and the way they have taken it at the community level, and that has resulted in one of the pictures which Dr. Sharma has shown on the border. So I think like you take the Forest Rights Act 2006, definitely there are learnings from Nepal, and there is very good exchange between the civil society groups in these three countries, and I really appreciate this kind of coordination, and that happens through this kind of dialogue, I think.
Okay, I see two hands. We don't have much time, so if you could just quickly ask a question. Thank you.
I'm Sunaina Sarkar. I'm a geologist by profession, and I wanted to say this, that whenever we talk about, especially now in this session that we are talking about connectivity and corridors, how much of geodiversity is really taken into consideration? Because in all the literature that is there, we are talking about biodiversity, we are talking about ecology, we are talking about ecological transformations, we are talking about all of this, but like all of you mentioned that wildlife does not understand political boundaries, and therefore it is actually the geodiversity which is the foundation of all of this. So how much should geodiversity research in these contexts be scaled up? Or how much is it being done in India or elsewhere in the world?
So, like for geodiversity, I'll take example of soil, so, because soil is the basic of everything. So, if you talk about soil and how it is being diversified, so now there are many under this land restoration programs and many other agroecological programs also. They have this concept of regenerative agriculture, which is, the name is maybe rebranding because it's from past many years regenerative agriculture has been in practice, but it's just a rebranding of the name. So in that, the main focus is the soil. So because everything starts with soil, the plantation we will do it in soil. We need water to plant help those plants to grow. So that's how with this regenerative agriculture approach, the soil part is taken care of, and with this, if we take care of the soil, then everything associated with it will eventually they will be healthy and grow well. So that's how currently it is going on, and I think in the future also this is going to grow manifold. So yeah.
Thank you, madam, for asking that question. Very pertinent question. One of the things in Bhutan we sometimes take things into granted is we assume that there is data, but at the end of the day we don't have data. So I don't think I'll have an answer on upscaling, but then one of the things we believe now started, believing very strongly is the education. And that's how we are actually looking into different academic programs like the climate study programs, PhD in climate study programs that we have started, which is looking into how is climate actually affecting different biodiversity, land use and people, etc., etc. So one of the things is education, definitely. And another one, I think we need to educate young people because they have technology, they know how to use technology. One of my professors used to say, you can say bad things, but you can say very nicely. So I think they need to know the language, how to communicate, because they have the technology, they know how to use it. So I think one of the things is, I strongly believe myself.
Just I will add one sentence, I think, to give you how to upscale. See, when you do planning of any mission, national mission, for management of related to environment or river system or hydropower, or even your project area management, I think geologists have to be part of that design and discussion. This is how you can upscale. The knowledge can be part of the design, and then it will automatically flow. So in my opinion, I think somehow geologists have remained as geologists, but they are not integrated as part of the overall development plan. I would suggest if that is done, upscaling will happen.
Because I have seen that most of the, the reports which come out after any of these kind of projects, the geology part is like one small paragraph.
Yeah.
So that's
I think we've got 3 different perspectives on it. I do see one more question. Yeah, please ask your questions. Keep it in brief, please.
Thank you all, everybody, for this very participative sort of session. I think it's important that just like in processes of management, product, design, so Naina's question is a very important one. So we at Balipara Foundation have started what is called the value chain of actually environmental assessment and doing it. And the first thing is geology. You see, it has to start with geology, then zoology, then botany, then what do you call 5 other things, geography, history, in fact also anthropology, which is earlier, I forget the sequence. But we have actually 9 different elements. Without that, that report is incomplete. So it's not a question of just doing something for geology. It's a question of the rest don't exist without geology. So I still am quite amused that such great people are writing all over the world without this value chain of actually the world. So I think it's a very good point, and I totally endorse what Sunaina is saying. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, yeah, there's another question. She has, yeah, please.
Good afternoon, I'm Oditi and I'm a student of International Relations and Environment. And being from the northeast of India and currently being based in Delhi, one of my favorite experiences also to share about a lot of communities that contribute to conservation in northeast, right? So I just wanted to know from you all, how do you think that the traditional ecological knowledge with TEK helps in biodiversity conservation?
I think traditional ecological knowledge is very, very important in the context of the adaptation which we are saying. Adaptation has to be done locally. So some knowledge from outside would not really be helpful unless we take the traditional knowledge system. The traditional knowledge system have come from generations to generations. And with the change in climate, they have also changed and adapted. So that's a well-tested knowledge system. So it has to be appreciated. It has to be taken into consideration, in my opinion. And there is no other way to be really successful. Traditional ecological knowledge should be integral part of any development.
If you just read the documentation available on ethnobotanical knowledge of Nepal, Bhutan, even in India, so you will get enormous amount of documentation. Especially in last 15 years, it has been documented very well. So I would request students to read more about ethnobotanical knowledge, and it is the huge wealth. And today, for some of the health illness issues, you don't have any cure, but there is a solution in the ethnobotanical medications. So we must read more about this. And one comment, very small, short comment I would like to make, because Himalaya has a very unique geology, and that's why this question comes again and again about the geology. The one issue is whether we have really given time and importance to the geological studies, because for every project, impact assessment, etc., that's the basis. That is one question, but whether, if it is done, whether we really use it in a later stage. So I have a couple of examples. One is about the Tista Hydel project, where I went there from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and we had given different kind of reports. It is available in the public domain. You can read more about that. So that's a classic example where a geological report and assessment was definitely considered. But then in other projects, like in Sikkim, there is one project where that study was not done, and then there was a ropeway project proposal. So the consideration has not been given in some cases. The consideration was given, but it was ignored in the later phase. So both kinds of examples are.
Okay, thank you. Last 2 minutes, so I would like both Ravi and Dr. Om to come in and just maybe quickly finish the session because we have to, and yeah, please.
I'll start with just one thing. Like I've been working in the restoration space for quite some time now, how land restoration, forest restoration can be done and how it should be done. So in that, like we have discussed throughout the day how community participation and youth participation is important in this. So to ensure this connectivity of landscape and have a integrated approach, to have a landscape level approach, it is very crucial to engage communities, to mobilize them, to make them part of the whole if it is a project, then the project, or if it is an initiative, then we need to do that so that we can include their traditional knowledge in it and include them in the livelihood part of it. So that way we can ensure a sustainable restoration of land as well as of forest.
Okay, Dr. Ram.
I think if you look at case studies, there are a couple of them in Bhutan. You can get it, I think, online. One is cordyceps management, how local people actually are given the role to manage the ecosystem themselves. So it is not to overcrowd them, not to exploit the resources, and to keep it sustainable year after year. So that's how one of the case studies from the northern Bhutan, and if you come down to, there is a beautiful case studies in Kokrazhar, Sarbang, Bhutan, river basin management, where people actually contact local to local contact, and then during flooding, during drought, there is a connection between the upstream and contact between upstream and downstream communities, and they make decisions by themselves. And it is also supported by the national government in the Bhutan side, also from the state government in the India, Assam side. But then, this is not known very well because I think it is not interesting to the media. But this is a very good, interesting case studies where community involvement takes place in some of the areas. And there are other beautiful case studies, studies in this region. So I think one thing we need to look at what is there. Another thing is we need to have a framework where we can share the knowledge, what is there, and then also need to know who to contact, who are the best stakeholders to contact, and then make a connections and involve everybody, and then also look at what they can do, how they can contribute, so then everybody benefits from them, and also the resources in the ecosystem also becomes sustainable in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we can end the session with your remark.
Okay, thank you very much. This session, of course, beyond boundaries, biodiversity conservation beyond boundaries, but suddenly looking at corridors and connectivity, we really talked about various possibilities and the transboundary issues. And when we talk about beyond boundaries, we have to see the third pole region as one entity, not with the borders. So, and various possibilities were mentioned. I think one connectivity which I would like in terms of ecological theory, I would like to say, when we talk about biodiversity, we say genetic diversity, we say species diversity, we say ecosystem diversity. I would like to add one more, which is the functional diversity. So all these three levels, whether at the genetic level or at the species level or at the ecosystem level, there is a functional diversity. To explain what is functional diversity, it's the organism or the ecosystem which provides functional services. If we know particular species is providing, organism is providing benefits to people and ecosystems. So that is more important than a species itself. So its function is going to be critical and important. So for the new students, it's a way that we need to integrate and see in our research what that functional diversity means in terms of species diversity, genetic diversity and ecosystem diversity in a bigger world of biodiversity conservation. And with this, I would like to really thank our host. Maybe you will say something.
Yeah. So I think, so within this short span of time, I think we are able to gather some very important, information as well as address certain issues. As I, mentioned in the beginning of the session, that I wanted to kind of, talk about themes and issues, and that's in a way covered. And I guess with the questions also you have responded, the way in which you have responded to them, kind of brought in few more questions, as well as, because as a sociologist also I see, how we can bring this whole human nature continuum, and also the fact that how significant developments have taken place over the years that has shaped our thinking. on mitigation, policies, conservations, and also other strategies. So with that note, I would like to thank all the 4 panelists for joining us and deliberate on this very crucial topic that was, been kind of discussed in this forum. So yeah, with that I would like to end the session, and thank you once again. Thanks to all the participants as well as those who are sitting here in the auditorium patiently listening to the session. Thank you so much.